Hello, hello, hello.
What's going on,
Episode
everybody?
61. Hey, guys.
Howdy, howdy.
How are we doing?
Fantastic. Actually, you know what? I just noticed episode 61. Pretty sure it says episode 61 on what we recorded.
It does, and we'll get to that in a second because
Okay.
I'm not good at counting, it turns out. But it's okay because your brother figured it out. So we're actually
Good deal.
Yes, it's great. Anyway, episode 61. Today is episode 61, it turns out. And we have a fantastic guest, Adeline. How are you?
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely.
We're excited to have you on.
Absolutely. She didn't know she's going to be drawing an iguana for us in person, so we're all just going to sit and watch.
I didn't bring my Bob Ross wig.
I was actually getting ready to say we're actually just turning this into a Bob Ross charity show.
Happy little scales.
Yes,
Yes.
little scales. Oh my God, well done. Yeah, that's good. And you know what? No mild panic in your face either. You're like, no, we're just not doing this.
She'd leave. She's smarter than that.
Well,
Well, they made promises that I'm not going to fulfill. So oh my goodness gracious. Well, as we start every episode, Chase, best and worst of your week.
Man, not a bad part to the week. It's been a great week. Yeah, I think you and I share probably one of the same best of the week.
Absolutely.
And no downsides. It's been good.
Okay.
I've got a good one to brag on too. I've already got 70 girls gravid for 2025. I'm waiting on delay now for over the next couple months.
It feels excessive, but I like
damn.
That's good.
Hungry.
That's good. Hungry. They're gonna be hungry too. So
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Adeline, how about you? Best and worst of the week.
Best. I had Friendsgiving the other night with some friends, so
that's
that was
fantastic.
really fun.
I love doing that.
It was super last minute too. We all were in this group message, and my buddy Danny at 1:00 was like, "Hey, should we do a Friendsgiving tonight?" And we're like, "Yeah, why not? Let's just go for it." And so that was super fun. It was really good. Ate way too much. So that was a highlight. But I had another highlight today actually. When I got up this morning and I went to go miss the animals, both of my black trees were locked up. So that was pretty
exciting.
That's awesome.
So I haven't paired them together basically since I moved back to Illinois in 2020. I've had everything separate, so I recently put everything together, and I'm like, sweet, they're going for it. So pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is this the first time that you've ever done any pairings with black trees, or?
No, it isn't. Before I moved out of state, I had a trio of cordensis, and they were starting to lay some eggs, and then moved. Everything got crazy and discombobulated, and then the animals, as they started to get kind of reestablished and comfortable and started laying eggs again, I had to move back. And then because I moved from a house to a studio size space and was traveling a lot, I kept everybody separate because I was like, I don't have the space right now or the time to dedicate to be able to make sure everything's going smoothly when I'm pairing things up and keeping an eye on things. So they didn't get paired until fairly recently. So I feel like it's nice because I'm getting back into it again and having fun with it. Yeah. I do feel like I definitely need a refresher though. So I'm like, man, what was I doing again? So definitely looking back into, everything and just kind of relearning all of it. So we had some eggs that were fairly well developed. And unfortunately, the pressure in the container had the eggs pop when we opened the incubator. And so sadly, we lost those guys. So I haven't been able to actually produce a live baby yet. So that's the goal. Keeping fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for you, absolutely. Oh, that's exciting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and spoil a little bit. My best of the week was we did an interview with Tanya Haddix on Monday. For those who don't know who that is the woman from Chimp Crazy.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
That was awesome, actually. She was an absolute treat to have on.
Was it more fun having her on or just Molly's reaction of how excited Molly was for the entire thing?
So Chase's sister was the co-host on that one because she kind of got everything for us there. And it was adorable watching Molly absolutely fangirl over this whole situation. And then at the end, Tanya told her she looked pretty. And I've never seen
That's
Molly
all she
happier.
needed.
Yeah, it was the
Aw.
happiest I've ever seen Molly. So that was far and away. It's like that moment where like you don't know what you're gonna get sometimes. And like from
Yeah.
the docu-series, like they really made her come off as like a shitty, crazy person. And whether she is that or not, I don't know, but she wasn't that to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That
No,
was
she was
exciting.
great. She was great. I'm excited for that episode to drop. Next
Yeah,
week.
so far and away the best of the week. The worst is the weather, to be honest. Like that's the only downside. It was gloomy, wet, and rainy and cold today. So I think if that's the worst of a week, that's a pretty good week, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll take it. Awesome. So I was going to start with, what kind of reptiles do you actually have, Adeline? Because you're mainly.
I was gonna say I wanted to know that because
but
I only know you from all the shows, your
Yeah.
art, being
Yeah,
at your wedding.
It was funny. Well, yeah. While I was on a live, they're like, "Oh man, it's so crazy that you're so involved with the community. You don't even keep any animals." I'm like, actually, I've been keeping for a very long time. So
I
I currently breed red striped gargoyle geckos and keep tree monitors because they're super fun. I love them so much. So I've got blue trees, black trees, and yellow trees, and they're hands down my absolute favorite of everything I've kept. We used to have a really big, diverse collection, but with just being on the road so much, it just got to be too much where I was just maintaining everything and trying to keep up with maintenance. And I wanted to make sure that the animals had not just the minimum. And so thankfully I had a lot of really awesome friends that were able to take different animals in. So I know that they're doing well and I know that they're well cared for. And so that definitely helps.
Yeah.
But having a smaller collection has helped a lot where I can kind of enjoy it again because it got out of hand for a little while.
It's funny how that happens, right? It's just
Yeah.
like you're cruising along and then all of a sudden, you realize that I've got too many animals for what I've got the ability to deal with at the moment,
Mm-hmm. And things change and life changes. At that time that I had that really big collection, I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't traveling. I didn't do art full time. I didn't do art at all yet. So I had no reason to travel. The only two shows I did were Sewerfest and Tinley for years and years and years. And so once I started doing the art full time, that started basically the traveling and the show circuit. And so after that, a lot of things changed. And I was like, you know what? I think it's time to kind of slim down.
That makes it so kind of touching on that a little bit. I know you're at all the NARBCs. What other shows do you do outside of those?
So we're slowly cutting back on a lot of shows just because when I'm gone every single weekend, it kind of takes a toll on us a little bit in terms of traveling because it's exhausting. But I also don't get any time to do artwork in between if we're doing a lot of back-to-back shows.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to kind of cut back a little bit more next year. So we do the NARBCs, we do Daytona and Southeast Reptile Expo at the moment. Because we're hoping that next year I would like to start looking into art shows. It's something completely different. I've actually never done an art show and I've never done an art fair at all. Everybody's like, oh, it's crazy. Like, what are the art fairs like? I'm like, I have no idea. I do reptile shows.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
No clue. So I think I would like to kind of start going in that direction a little bit more and get some bigger pieces and some more detailed pieces in that I've been wanting to do for a very long time.
Like
That's the goal.
the gecko that Bob painted at St. Louis that you were teaching him on?
Yeah, it's right over there.
Was the gecko salamander?
It's a marbled salamander.
Salamander, okay.
Yeah.
Molly, if you want to pop that question back up for a second, it looks like Pat. Where'd it go? Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Molly. Yeah, do you just do reptiles and amphibians, or do you do other stuff? I feel like I've only seen the amphibians and reptiles.
Yes, and it never was intended to necessarily be that. I actually have a background in aquatics, and I used to do aquarium maintenance and consultation and worked at an aquarium shop for a very long time before doing reptiles.
Yeah.
I also, have hand-raised parrots and helped with breeding parrots as well at Birds and Beast Pet Shop. So I've got a background in a lot of different types of animals. And when I started doing art full-time, because most of my network was in the reptile industry, that's kind of what took off.
Okay.
And, having amazing, wonderful friends that were commissioning me for portraits of their animals or for logos or for branding. That's kind of the direction that we went in. And I had no plan when I first went full time. I was just amazed that I could even do it. And so I started off doing pieces that I thought people might find interesting and neat. And, at every show, hey, do you have a ball python yet? No, sorry, I haven't drawn one yet. Hey, do you have a beardy yet? No, I haven't drawn one yet, sorry. So over time, I would pay attention to what people were asking me for frequently and then start making animals kind of based off of that. So that's how the reptile art really snowballed. But yeah, I have a huge love for fresh and saltwater, for parrots, for a little bit of everything, really. Horses as well. I've been drawing horses for a very long time, but a lot of people that they meet me at the shows with the artwork, they see only reptile art because that's primarily what I've been doing. But I like all critters.
I mean, I've got a mahi mahi that you did.
Oh, sweet.
It's in with all my fishing stuff. It hangs up in my garage next to all my travel stuff. So, yeah, I love it. So I like that you branch out just more than reptiles.
I'm glad. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I find I think the direction that I would like to go in personally is a lot of U.S. native wildlife.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Not just specifically reptiles. I obviously will always continue to draw reptiles because I love them so much. Yeah. But I have a lot of scenes that I would like to do. I'd like to do more habitat pieces. What interests me a lot is animals interacting with each other, different species. I think that's kind of fun because I'd love to know what they're thinking and, the type of encounters that they have with each other. So there's a lot of things like that I would love to paint that are pretty much on my to-do list for this winter and next year.
That'd be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, that's exciting. So you said you don't get to necessarily paint a lot in between the shows. So does that mean like the actual schedule of like, I'm going to use the word producing the art. I don't know what the painting, whatever.
Yeah.
Like producing it, like you only are going to do so many items then, throughout the year. So you're like, we're going to have, 10 paintings for this year, and that's what's going to make up all of the prints and everything else for the next season? Or how does that process go of you preparing for like having inventory and stock through all these shows?
Is very flying by the seat of my pants.
Okay. I love it.
Usually I try to make a new piece per show if I can.
Okay.
And usually I try to base whatever I'm going to draw based on what that area likes. Because one of the really cool things that I found out at my first Daytona was people down south keep turtles and tortoises outside. That's a huge thing down there. Up here, all you've got is Russian tortoises and redfoots, like at the very most. Maybe a red ear slider here and there. And sorry, that comment's actually how I started collecting artwork, was trying to collect art that I couldn't keep myself. But yeah, I try to make pieces based on the shows that I'm going to typically. So that's how, like, rattlesnakes in Texas, you'll see a lot of turtles and tortoises when I start going to Daytona, and I try to plan my pieces out that way.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, but moving forward, I think I'm going to just try to incorporate a lot of other wildlife in there as well, but still be reptile and amphibian adjacent.
Okay.
They still, they're a lot of fun. And I think one of the big things that draws me to drawing reptiles is they're so misunderstood, as we all know. A lot of people don't know about them, and I have a lot of fun teaching people about the animals that I paint. And they're so misrepresented that that's kind of why they're my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's super
I think
cool.
It's awesome. I love it.
I definitely want to dive more into, so how long have you been keeping reptiles then?
Truthfully, as long as I can remember. My parents had snakes growing up. So I grew up with snakes in the house. That was always cool. We always had a little bit of everything. My dad would come home with a tank, and I'd be trying to guess what was in it, getting all excited. So that was definitely something that he instilled in me. And so yeah, I've been keeping for a very long time. I didn't start getting heavy into reptiles until maybe high school-ish. So at that point, I was breeding fish. I had a lot of fish tanks. I had, my corn snake and my ball pythons and, the different reptiles here and there. But I didn't start really getting into them until about like high school or so. A friend of mine had been trying to get me to go to Tinley for years, and that I went to school with. And I never could quite make it out for it. And then right after I had graduated, I finally went out to my first Tinley. And that was like my first show.
Oh, boy,
And
that's a way to experience, right?
yeah, that definitely opened up my eyes to, the whole reptile industry and the fact that this is a thing, and look at all these different species and all these different critters. So that's kind of when I started going down the rabbit hole a little bit with them.
That's awesome. Yeah,
So
Tinley
much.
was my second show. It was my second show. Yeah, because I lived in Southern Indiana, so I had like the Indianapolis show that would be there once in a
Yeah.
while, and then everyone there was like, "Well, you got to go to Tinley. You got to go see this place." So I was like, "All right, I'll check it out." Then I had that same experience. I
Yeah.
just
Oh,
graduated
yeah.
high school, and I was just like, "You can really make money doing this on a big scale.
Yeah.
This is amazing."
It's funny, like it's interesting, right? Because I feel like we all have experiences in life where like we interact with these niche communities, right? Where it turns
Mhm.
out there's money to be made, there's jobs and all this other stuff that you never really think about in the moment, right? And it's ironic. I feel like we all were kind of similar in that moment. Like I grew up loving reptiles, but like I had a dog die, and I was like, I'm never gonna deal with this again, so I'm gonna go get a pet tortoise. And when I'm at this pet tortoise, I'm at this reptile show, I'm like, holy cow, like this is a whole industry. There's a lot of money being made, and I can create a career out of selling something and caring for something that I love. Like this is really cool. So it is different, right? I think sometimes you don't realize the opportunities that can be out there for sure.
Oh, for sure. And the fact that we can. So I grew up always thinking I had to be a veterinarian. That was the only way I would be able to work with animals, because that's all I knew.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't know that, you could be a private breeder. I didn't know that you could do, all these different animal adjacent, animal involved jobs. So I'm super grateful that basically my entire career, for the most part, has been working with animals. And then even with the artwork, I still feel like I'm fairly involved with them, because we're traveling so much to shows, we're going to private collections, we're
Yeah.
going to zoos and getting reference photos, and still being able to spend time with those animals.
Yeah. Do you work with just paint, or do we have other art mediums? I'm going to act as if I know that really
So
means.
it's funny because it's actually flip-flopped. So I actually don't work in paint very often. This piece I started on because I hadn't painted in a year, and I really wanted to start getting into painting again. And
Okay.
so the typical piece, most of the pieces that I have are done in Copic markers and pens, which are fine art alcohol-based marker from Japan.
Okay.
So they're a lot of fun to work with, and it's a really awesome medium, and I love it. But I also enjoy painting too, and I just hadn't done it in a long time, so getting back into painting again. So I'm doing acrylics. They're slow drying acrylics, so it's not quite. It doesn't take as long to dry as oil, but it also won't dry up instantly like a lot of acrylics work, or like a lot of acrylics do.
So when you say slow drying acrylic, I'm assuming that's in contrast to like fast drying acrylic. What is
Normal acrylic dries really quickly, and you can't
Okay.
usually do a whole lot of work with it
Okay.
because it'll dry so fast. So there are additives, and there is a type of acrylic that I use that has a little bit more dry time, so you can actually blend a little bit more with it, which is what I enjoy
So
doing.
when we talk about like working with, you're talking about like the actual like mixing of colors and things like that to get a
the
palette.
paint itself, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. See this, Chase
You're
and I-
learning something new. You can
Yeah,
pick
man,
up a
Chase-
hobby. You can start
yeah.
painting.
Chase, no, I absolutely, I don't paint. I don't draw. There's one thing I did that's floating around the internet at this point, and it's a
Ooh.
Chris Eaton, or full body picture of Chris Eaton stick figure. It's some of my best work. He might be missing a leg, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but he was already.
Yeah, well, no, that's true. I mean, that's why we did it that way. But no, I'm not an artist on any level. So, but no, that's cool. So at what point did you realize, like, or did you make the decision? I'm gonna do art full time.
That was the scariest decision of my life.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. I've been employed since I was 14, and I was working at an auction house, and I was the graphic designer there, and moved out of state for it, moved to Indiana, and the first 6 months were great. After that 6 months, it all went downhill. It was just very mismanaged. The workplace became super toxic. wasn't what we were told it was going to be. And so after work, I started drawing a little bit. I did the Inktober challenge as a way just to get myself sketching and drawing again, because I hadn't drawn since like high school.
Yeah.
And that kind of snowballed into doing more art, posting more art, being asked if I had an art page. No, why would I have an art page? Why would I do that? Made an art page, and then just from the amazing friends in the reptile community, I slowly got commissioned to be able to do logos, to be able to do banners, and to be able to do portraits. And so it got to the point where I was getting home at like 8 o'clock at night, staying up till like 1 or 2 in the morning, just drawing nonstop, sleeping a little bit, getting up, doing the whole workday thing. And I was just like super burnt out at my job, wasn't having a good time. And this art thing like kind of reinvigorated me. And so my now husband, Chris, and a couple friends of ours were like, Addie, we really think that maybe you should start looking into quitting. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like, this is dependable. And they're like, yeah, but you're spending, a fraction of your time throughout the day working on this stuff when, like, clearly it's something that you can do and you're doing it. What if you had the entire day for that instead of just a few hours every day? So I thought about it. And with a lot of really kind convincing and encouragement, I put in my 2 weeks, and they told me I could go that day. I left that day. And it's pretty much been it from there.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's when you knew you had husband material with Chris, right? Yes. It was when he was like, quit your job, do this full time.
You're like, go for it. You could do it. And they fired him the next day. Which was like crazy, but it worked out perfectly because he was in the same boat. He was like, I don't know. He's like, I walked into work that day and it was so hard to do. Yeah. So it ended up working out where we're both basically a team, managing the art business. He does a lot more than I think anybody actually really knows or realizes. I think a lot of people think he's like this dude that follows me around while I paint.
That's just your employee back there, right?
Yeah.
I just assumed he was actually the painter. You were just the face of the company.
He does do awesome artwork, and I'd love to see him do some more. But he pretty much like makes all of it happen, and I'm super appreciative to have that support because
that's awesome.
You don't come across that very often.
I think that's something that far too many people downplay or lack to understand. Like, having a supportive partner in whatever challenge or task you're taking on in life makes all the difference between success and failure in my mind, right? Like when you have right there, just being like, you can crush it, you need to do this, I have faith in you. Like, it just makes you as a human feel like a better human. And that's going to, in general, just help you perform better as well, which I think it's so important to have. So that's fantastic. I hear far too many times of people not having necessarily the supportive partner or even the partner that's like, YOLO, let's just do this. Like, quit your job. You can paint pictures of snakes. That's awesome. Let's do it. Like, sometimes when you say that stuff out loud, it sounds kind of crazy. And if you have the person right there with you, it doesn't sound so crazy anymore.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Patrick, I love you, but I saw you draw. Please do not quit your job.
Don't worry, guys. I will not be quitting my job to sing or to...
there is a niche for that, though.
Bad artwork? Is there?
Oh, yeah.
That's...
Bad tattoos, too, like on purpose, that are funny.
That sounds
there's so
terrible. Oh, my goodness.
We need to talk after this.
I'm just saying.
I might have a real future.
Is your company expanding now, Adeline?
Yeah, are you taking on contractors? Because I can produce absolute garbage for you.
Shitty Tattoos by Adeline Robinson Art.
Perfect.
Yes. The ring to it. Yeah. I can't wait for that for the U.S. ARC auction.
I was about to say, in the reptile community, it might actually sell.
That's the problem, though. Yeah. I can get a tattoo right here on stage of something Patrick drew.
Patrick will tattoo you. Let's do it. Oh, maybe we shouldn't promote this. Never mind. Just kidding, guys. I'll tattoo you for like $20. It's fine. Yeah. All right. So animal-wise, we know the black trees. What other stuff we got?
blue trees, the yellow tree,
Okay, so it's
and
the
then
llamas and then the gecko, the
and then the
gargoyles.
geckos,
And that's it.
Then that's it for the reptiles.
Oh, okay.
I do have
Well-
my horse, and then I have a little dementia old lady dog. She's actually a Hurricane
Oh.
Katrina dog,
Oh,
and
wow.
we've been telling ourselves like she's an old lady since we brought her home in 2019, and she's still kicking. She's mentally gone. She's just gone, but she's still ticking and still going. So,
okay.
yeah, she was found at the Cleco Power Station or the power plant in Louisiana right after Hurricane Katrina. And my great aunt that lived down there, a friend of hers heard about Cleco or found Cleco at the plant
Yeah.
and brought her over to her. So she lived free range on 30 acres of Louisiana woods until we got her in 2019 after my great aunt passed. So I'd love to know what she's seen.
That
Wow,
she
yeah.
has seen some shit.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Okay. All right. So she's living her best life at this point.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is she?
She's a little beagle mix. She looks like a
Okay.
sawed-off beagle, basically.
A sawed-off beagle. Okay.
She's got little stumpy legs.
I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't entirely sure which way we were sawing off.
Yeah, I was trying to picture that also. I was like, is this a weird AKC breed term I don't know, or
Sawed-off beagle.
Yeah.
No, she just looks like she's not as dainty as like a dachshund, but she's just got
Okay.
like she's a little sausage body with little legs. We don't know what mix she is. Definitely beagle something, but
So
sawed-off beagle.
There's a chance she might be a beagle dachshund, is what you're saying, huh? It's,
She doesn't seem dachshundy though, so it's I don't know.
As someone with 2 dachshunds, I'm very happy for you because dachshunds are tiny terrorists. They are monsters.
oh, they are.
They're Chase got to experience those in person. Sorry, guys. Oh my god, I love that. So you're trying to cut back on shows, basically just in ARVCs, or is it going to be like cut down way on the reptile side, and then, as you said, you're expanding into the art fairs as well?
Not entirely sure. We're still pretty much like planning out next year and what that's going to look like. It kind of depends on what art shows, if we're getting into them, are going to be happening and kind of the timeline of everything. That's the hard part, is scheduling everything out as far in advance as we can to be able to fit in all the things that we would like to do.
Yeah.
So not 100% sure on cutting back even further, but it's a possibility. Kind of, we'll see.
Okay, I got you. Leviathan, to answer your question, no, not a new camera, just a new room, more space, a new lens. So, thank you. We've gotten multiple comments. Apparently, my camera was absolute garbage before this show. So
You just keep looking better and better each week. So I mean,
well, I'm just aging gracefully, like a fine wine. So it's good,
or milk.
Wow. We were at the store. Just a slight tangent. We were at the store today getting eggnog because why not? And there was a jug of it that had started separating, and I was like, "Oh, that is unfortunate." And it looked horrible. Yeah, that was like, something clearly went wrong with the batch when you're like 2 weeks out from expiration and it's clearly already separating. It's just not.
The unfortunate part's you're drinking eggnog, homie.
Wait a minute. Adeline, what are your feelings on eggnog? No, Chase, this is important now.
I can and sometimes will drink it if everybody's like, let's have some eggnog. I'll have some
Okay.
eggnog, but it's not something that I will choose on my own. If that makes sense.
No, I get it. Not everybody can love eggnog like I do. Our Christmas episode last year, I literally drank like a whole bottle of it on the
It
show.
was disgusting. It was really gross.
I mean, I gained 13 pounds that episode, but it was worth it. Just had that new business glow going on. Yeah, that's true. That's it. All right. Well, you know what, Chase? At least she doesn't hate it, so I'm going to take that as a win for me.
Okay.
I don't understand why people don't like eggnog. It's delicious. It's amazing.
I don't mind I think it's a little sweet for me.
Oh, okay.
If we're critiquing here, if we're
Yeah.
talking about eggnog,
Yeah.
because I like spiced stuff and I love
Okay.
like spiced teas and things like that. But I think like for me personally, it's a little too sweet, just too much for me. But it's weird because I also like sweet things. So
Okay. All right. I like your if we're talking about eggnog there. Welcome to Late to the Mic, where anything is on topic. I think we've been pretty good so far this episode, staying mildly on topic. So you know what? Eggnog's
Decently.
Hey, yeah, Chase, take
Chris
us back.
though, yeah, Chris. So did he, when you guys met, was he keeping a bunch of different stuff too, and then you guys kind of blended?
No. He actually had zero interest in reptiles when he went to his first reptile show.
Really?
Yeah, which was with his old roommate, and he was breeding geckos, and he was like, "Oh, come out to the show." And Chris is like, "Why would I want to do that?" And he's like, "Well, there's gonna be beer," and so Chris
There
went
you
out.
go.
I didn't realize when I had first moved in that he wasn't cool with snakes or anything like that, and so I moved a bunch of my reptiles in. Had no idea the entire time that it wasn't his jam, but in that he got to know them and he got to watch their behavior. And when he, would check in on my retic, he realized, oh, this isn't a monster that's trying to bite me all the time. He's actually like a huge wuss. And so after that, I think that kind of changed his perspective on him a little bit, where he enjoyed them. It wasn't ever anything that he was particularly like passionate about, but he enjoys them. And he's the one that encouraged me to get into the monitors because he knew I loved them so much. And he's like, dude, go for it. Like, let's get you some tree monitors. I know you love your monitors, because I was breeding Yankees at the time. And I've always wanted tree monitors. And so he encouraged that and has just been super encouraging of all of it. And yeah, he wanted to get into a few different species for a while, but it's kind of been mostly focused on, I think, mostly the trees and then some other projects that we've had here and there. So it was a slow
That's
grow.
cool. That's also crazy that he was not into it at all.
Yeah.
So did you guys meet at the first reptile show where he just like went with his friend?
We did, yes.
Okay, so his friend's the ultimate wingman for hooking him up with his future wife then.
Sure.
I dated his friend for a while.
Oh, there we go.
So when I met Chris, like we were both in totally different places. I used to actually try to wingman Chris because we were good friends. And so
Okay.
I dated his roommate for a while, while Chris and I were friends. And that I think that's what kept it so pure. And I guess what maybe has made the relationship so great is because we were like truly just good friends for a very long time before we actually got together. And so after my ex and I had broken up, Chris and I were both trying to wingman each other. And everybody's like, you guys are stupid. You guys are so stupid. You guys are best friends. You encourage each other and everything. Like, have you guys thought about it? And we're like, oh, God, why would you suggest that? I don't want to ruin my friendship. Ugh. And then finally, we ended up coming around to it and kind of slowly developing a relationship.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Why is the chat still on the eggnog? I am so sorry. Adeline's just giving this wonderful story.
Adeline is giving an incredible story that's just beautiful, romantic, and Chad is over here like, Chase, go chug some eggnog. Oh my God, Adeline, do you do commissions for doggies?
I do not. Do dogs, but
No
I have
dogs.
amazing friends that specialize in dog commissions, and that's what they do. And so I love art. I love other artists. I love encouraging and supporting other artists too. I know that they will do an amazing job at it, and that's something that they love doing. They love drawing dogs. I kind of prefer reptiles and kind of the weird stuff. So I'm always happy to send recommendations to my artist friends that I know will absolutely crush it.
Awesome.
Very
That's
cool.
fantastic.
Well, since you're into weird stuff, I'd love to commission a picture of Patrick for his wife. I would love that.
I don't know how to feel about this all of a sudden. It's hurtful.
I had a loss for words.
Yeah, a little bit.
I've heard how you talk to Molly. It's okay. This is light.
Touche. I'll take it. So you said Chris is an artist as well. Is it like as serious as your art, or is it something more he does as like a hobby? Like, what is his feelings on art?
So he's truthfully one of the most creative people I've ever met.
Okay.
And he's got diversity in that. So his dad's a wood sculptor. So he grew up following his dad around and making sculptures as well. And so he's made some sculptures. He's a tinkerer. He's a photographer by trade. So that is what he did for a living. So he's got the creative eye in that way and making stuff, amazing at making stuff. I try to encourage him to get into trying to draw. And I had never really seen him draw very much. And he'd do some little doodles here and there that I thought were cute. I was like, come on, please, like, can you please draw something? Like, I want to see. And so all the space creatures that are on my table on rocket ships, those are all drawn by Chris.
Okay.
Nice. That's
so he
awesome.
loves outer space and NASA and rockets. And so that I call it the Chris collection. If it's in a rocket ship, then Chris drew it. So yeah, I'm like so proud of him. the Spaceballs print is like one of our best-selling prints, is the one that he made. So I'm hoping he'll do some more.
Yeah,
he should.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fun. It's is he hesitant to do it because he feels like the art is your brand, like you're fortunate?
I don't think so.
Just busy.
No, he's just busy. He's got stuff going on. He's always trying to manage a million different projects, and I know he's got some brewing. He's got some pieces that he started on that he hasn't quite finished yet, but I'm just trying to encourage him to make more because I think it's fun.
I love it.
Yeah, the rocket snakes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that.
Man, that always makes me feel bad because I wish Justin encouraged me like that. Because today I was circling like jeans that I'm going to shed test, and he's like, "That's the crappiest circle I've ever seen." I'm like, "Thank you, I needed that today."
That's the crappiest circle. Yes, that is.
And
that is.
You
that
know
is,
how he said it too with his monotone, just like, "It's the crappiest circle."
What a specific and hurtful insult, though. Like, you're having a rough day when someone's targeting how you're circling something. Oh
I say that's a reflection of him and not me, but it's whatever.
That's
why I like drawing reptiles too. They all have different patterns. So if you do a little bloop,
yeah,
okay, it's
right?
just pattern.
Yeah. Is there a specific reptile that like you're like, this is my favorite, this is what I enjoy doing, and like if I could I would only do this one?
I am an absolute sleut for drawing vipers.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just so fun. I would draw way too many of them if I could.
I got it. Where does your inspiration come from? Is it purely from your imagination, or do you try to recreate images and animal poses?
A little bit of both. I've mostly been working off of the latter. So images or photos of animals that are really striking that I really like a lot. But there are pieces that have been kicking in my head for 4 years that are from my imagination that I would like to paint this winter and next year because it's been sitting there for so long. So a little bit of both.
That's really cool. That's really cool that you can imagine that and just bring it to life like that and give it so much life. That's what I love about all your drawings, is just how realistic everything is.
Thank you. That's my goal. Always trying to one-up myself with each piece for the most part.
There's the eggnogs back, guys.
Why? What is wrong with our chat? It's
You know what? Nothing's wrong with it. I love it. All right. So for those who don't get the opportunity to go to the NERBC auctions or Daytona auctions, you always, as far as back as I can remember, have been painting like a special item for each auction. When do you decide like this is the item that I'm going to be painting, and like what's the process there of that decision?
Yes.
Is that a morning of decision you're saying?
I like your style, Adeline. You just letting wherever the wind blows. I like this.
It's very sometimes I'll have things usually the animal isn't planned. At least the thing I will paint on will maybe be planned. Usually it is not, but sometimes it is.
I just love the thought now in my head. It's like at Daytona. I think at Daytona you did a surfboard. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just imagine like you walking down the beach and there's like, surf shop and you're like, oh, there's the item, Chris. Let's go pick one of those up and head on
That's
back.
how it happens sometimes. The surfboard I had been wanting to do for a while because Florida.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say Daniel's in here in the chat. We were at Arlington and I was gonna buy a bottle to paint on because sometimes I'll buy bottles to paint on. And I forgot that I was like, damn it, I forgot to get my bottle to paint on. Well, maybe we'll leave early in the morning and we'll go to the liquor store and we'll get like a cool bottle and I'll bring it back. Forgot in the morning too. And the next thing we know, like we have to get over to the booth. And Daniel's like, why don't you just paint on one of the cowboy hats that's in the lobby at the Starbucks? I'm like, oh my God, mind blown. So like that ended up working out perfectly. But sometimes it's the item is there and it seems like it would be a perfect thing. Other times it's, I think I would like to bring X, Y, and Z. So this last Daytona, we did the ukulele. Yeah. Just try to, stick to theme. We did the cow skull for Dallas. So I usually try to keep it themed if I can, but I don't want to be too repetitive either. So I'm always trying to find something different to do.
I like
that's awesome. It's very seat of your pants for a little bit of everything you do. So that's I wish I had that. I don't. I can't mentally do that.
Oh no, it's incredibly stressful, but I'll end up working out. I don't choose to be like this.
I don't choose to be broken.
You're making it look easy though. It's not fair.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, there's some people that live in chaos, and it's like you look at them and you're like, yeah, you're in chaos. I get it. Yours feel very planned out, so I would have assumed there was a very.
Thank you. I'm glad my bamboozling skills are apparently working.
Yeah, you got us.
Yeah,
hence why we're like, so what do you plan out in months in advance?
Can you walk us through your scheduling process? And you're like, I don't have a schedule. Well done.
I'm a neat freak, though. I'm a little bit psychotic about that.
Oh,
I do have that.
All right. So you got that. I mean, that's something, right? All right. So. You got married at a Tinley auction.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually brought some friends. That was their first experience in the reptile industry.
Really?
That auction. And you walking into Jurassic Park was a moment that I still hear about constantly. Every time they go to a show, they're like, is somebody going to get married? So, whether y'all realize it or not, you've had a very indelible image that you've left on people, not even in the industry. How did we get there? How did that conversation even start of let's have our wedding at Tinley?
So we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and we were trying to decide how to be able to have a small wedding, but at the same time somehow find a way to include our friends, which doesn't really work that way. And so our buddy Jason, I think, was like, what if you guys got married at Tinley? Like, I couldn't tell. I don't even remember if he was joking or not. Like, we were just talking about it. And Chris and I were like, you know what? That is where we met. That is where we have met so many amazing people, like, throughout this whole journey together, because we met March 2014 Tinley, and so we had been continually going back to the show years and years, first as friends and then eventually getting married. And so a lot of people have been part of that relationship, and we wanted to be able to share that with our friends. And we're like, well, there's no way to be able to get our friends from the UK and our friends from different states in one place, like for a wedding separately. That would be really hard to do. And so we thought about it, and we're like, actually it makes a lot of sense. Everybody we pretty much love and care about and know are all going to be in one place. Why not just like kind of throw it out there? And so we ended up talking to Brian and Bob, and I was so nervous because I sent them an email and I was like, hey, is this something that like could be a possibility? And they just like exclaimed back in all caps, like, hell yeah, absolutely. They were super, super sweet and super supportive of it. And so we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And we did not think about how stressful that was going to be, prepping for October Tinley to begin with, and then vending the entire day, and then getting ready after the show for a wedding. So we didn't think about that at all. And we weren't nervous about it either until everybody kept coming over and we're like, are you nervous yet?
It's funny
And
how
we're
that
like,
works.
no, we weren't nervous, but now we are. And so it was kind of a whirlwind. It was just crazy. It was so much fun. I have to say though, like I've been up on stage for the auctions for years, and so I figured it would just be like that. I figured it would just kind of be the same. And I had no idea how many people were going to be there for it.
Yeah.
When I looked around the corner and saw everybody, I was like, oh man, like this is a lot of people. Naturally, the night before, I watched a ton of fail videos of people just falling and like,
As one does, yeah.
as one does.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, yeah, as I'm walking through, I just, everything's like quiet. I just hear my heartbeat and I'm thinking, don't trip, walk slow, don't trip. And I look at the videos and I'm like power walking down the aisle. I thought I was walking so slow, but I wasn't.
You had a look in your eyes, like you had a mission, you had a goal.
Yeah. Don't fall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was crazy. I'm still like mind blown by that whole experience.
Yeah, it was cool. I definitely didn't expect to ever see a wedding at a Tinley auction. So
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
first.
It was unique. And then, I mean, the Jurassic Park theme was just perfection. I
That's
think
great. A great song for it, really.
it actually is, right? And then it's like it's a great song just in general because it's very powerful, emotional. Then you do it at a reptile, show, and it's like everybody there is, sobbing, and it's just it was top tier stuff right there. So yeah, it's an adventure, right? I think that's part of the fun though of our community just in general, right? It's opportunities like that. And opportunities like there's not a lot of places you can do stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah, like trying to describe it to people that haven't been to it is always kind of difficult to do. And so it's always super exciting to me to bring people to their first show after hearing about it for so many years, because they're always like,
Yeah.
oh, I never knew it was like this. It's fun.
It is, and it's like it's fun, and it's cool to see. Like, I think a lot of people have, like, relatively speaking, like negative connotations towards. A lot of people have negative connotations towards reptiles and snakes in general,
Mm-hmm.
and the opportunity to go into this environment where they're surrounded by thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people that absolutely love these animals, and they see the joy that the animals bring, and then also the fact that the animals aren't monsters; they're just living their best life. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, some are a little bit more angry than others, but people are just as bad. So
We still appreciate them for it.
yeah, that's it, right? I mean, Oscar the Grouch was my favorite character on Sesame Street.
That makes sense.
Touche. So yeah, no, I think it is. I think it's great. I love it so much. Is there a favorite one of the shows when you go to at the NARBCs? Is there one specific that you're like, this is the one that always like works out the best for us, or like we love the most?
It's Tinley.
I was gonna say that's not even a good question, Patrick. She literally met her future husband at Tinley. I'm pretty sure Tinley's gonna be the special one.
It does help. Like I have a lot of history with it, but it is like one of our best shows.
Okay.
So yeah, usually we do a lot of prep work and getting ready for Tinley and making sure we have new pieces, and so yeah, that's pretty much like one of our biggest shows.
Both March and October, or is it mainly just October?
Both. I would say probably both. Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like it used to flip-flop, or maybe that was just before I started doing art just with the animals, where October was always bigger and then March not so much, but I feel like after COVID, for at least with the artwork, they're both pretty strong.
No, we felt the same for sure after COVID. That March was always the smaller show compared to the two, and now I feel like they really are on par to be.
I feel like they're on par with each other, yeah. And it's so big now too. I remember when the rooms were closed off and they weren't even entirely open yet in March. So it's grown a lot.
Did you So did you see as equally large boom in business from like COVID on as like just the reptile people did?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. At that time, and I went full time February of 2020. I was getting ready for
Perfect.
Tinley.
Yeah.
I put every dollar I had into bringing prints for Tinley. And so obviously that got canceled. And so it was just amazing to see the amount of people that like came together online to
Yeah.
support other vendors and breeders and artisans like me and people involved. So I was doing live videos daily where I would do a daily mini canvas. So many people were just stuck at home. A lot of people were by
Yeah.
themselves, and it was a really fun way to just connect and chat and talk to folks about, hey, what should I draw on the canvas today? And we just chit chat while I painted. And I
That's
would
really
tell
cool.
those
So
little
you were a
tips.
Bob Ross in a way.
Yeah.
I guess a little bit.
Yeah, you were kind of the reptile lady Bob Ross. I like that.
So it was fun. There were just these tiny little canvases, and I would do one a day and then sell them, on Facebook, and it kind of went from there. But yeah, 2020 I think affected us the exact same way it did with the entire animal industry.
It's cool. It's very cool.
Are you going to be at Bob's show in February?
I will be, yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
All right, as we're getting relatively close to the end, so what does I guess 2025 look like for y'all?
That's what we're still trying to plan out. So
Okay,
I've got my show's schedule.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of, like I said, we want to kind of look into the art shows as well.
Right.
And so looking into that, doing some research and checking that out and kind of balancing that. I want to hit up some endurance rides with my horse.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm trying to figure out my schedule to see which weekends will work and, still kind of planning everything out. But I've got my show schedule for the most part kind of hammered out, but we'll see. It's still.
So for the art shows, do you have to apply to get into those, and then they let you in based on their
Yes.
feelings about your art?
Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's something that I used to really dislike
Yeah.
from the outside. I was like, man, like that sucks. People are just going to pick what they like. And that,
Yeah.
that's a huge bummer that people are going to be, telling other people they can't get into it. But I understand it. I understand that they're trying to keep a really high quality or a really high caliber of art there. So we're going to try. We're going to see. Maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Interesting. So when you're looking at these art fairs that you want to go to, and you're decide if you're going to apply, are you looking at like other vendors that they already have to kind of get an idea of like, or does each art fair like have its own like necessarily like style, like even though like
They have different categories. So that's
Okay.
that's something I've been researching because this is all new to
Wow.
me. So I'm just like looking into this now,
Yeah.
like this week. So there'll be different categories. There'll be like a ceramics category. There'll be jewelry. There'll be watercolor. There'll be paintings. There'll be, mixed media work. So there are different categories typically at these art fairs. And so it's been interesting looking to see what that type of crowd is. Some of them had like some cool wildlife artists in there. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That seems kind of up my alley-ish a
Yeah.
little bit. And with others, like we got an email from one of them like, hey, check out our event. And we checked it out and it was like people rolling in paint, like splattering paint on canvases and stuff, which, to each their own, but that's not really the type of clientele that is going to be looking for my work.
Right.
They're probably not going to be there. So the type of shows that I'm probably going to go towards are realistically probably out west and down south,
Okay.
where there's a lot of people that enjoy wildlife art in terms of like sportsmen.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
So gonna see how those shows are.
I love it.
Cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah. No, that's gonna be
It's something
fantastic.
completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ryan has a great question. So for the one-off pieces, do you make prints out of those, or do those stay one-offs?
I've only ever made prints twice, and it was a very limited amount. So there weren't many of them. For the Bolins that I painted, I did make a small run of prints. and the Sailfin Dragon that I painted, I did a small run of prints. But I don't, or I guess the Green Mamba, I also have prints of. So not very often, usually because a lot of it is like on a bottle or on a ukulele or on a guitar. It isn't quite something I can make prints with. So typically no, but I have done a few before.
So when you go to make prints, is it literally like you're scanning it in essentially and it's making it from there? Like how, what is that explaining to a 3-year-old? What is that process of like
After I finish the artwork,
Yeah.
Chris will then take a high detail photograph
Okay.
of the piece, flat, and then he'll take it, he'll edit it to color match it to the original with adjustments based for printing, and then export the files. We take it to a local art store that does our printing for us, and then get proofs made where we look them over to see whether they came out properly or if they have to be adjusted for color. And so that's basically the long and the short of it, like the process of how to get it to a print. And then once we get the prints made and they're approved, then we back and sleeve, and we have backing and sleeving parties. Backing and sleeving takes forever.
You can't. Can you not buy them already backed and sleeved, or is it just significantly more expensive to have somebody else do it?
It's going to be more expensive to have somebody else do it, and I like to keep the cost down, so we do it ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Awesome. Chase, do you have any?
I do actually. So now that Chris is more on board with reptiles, unlike he used to be, do you have anything else that you want to add to your collection that you, now that you have more of a home base, that you'd love to have?
Because of this current point in time, we're still not home very much. No. However, when we do eventually, get a house and get the place that we want, I would love to maybe get back into the rest of the species of tree monitors, like when I used to have my larger collection of them, just because they're super fun and I really enjoy them a lot. But at the same time, I don't know. I really enjoy having less responsibility at home.
Yeah.
So it's tough because like tree monitors are my absolute favorite. I'm a huge fan of a lot of arboreal vipers. I think they're super cool. Like I can't keep venomous and I don't keep venomous. I always thought, it'd be super cool to have a beautiful giant bioactive display with like some blue insularis or some eyelash vipers or something in it, or squams. I love squams. But I don't know if I will, or if I do, it'll be at a point in time where I know I'm going to be home. I know I'm going to be able to sit and enjoy them, and I'm not going to be on the road as much.
Yeah.
But I think for the next several years, we're probably going to be still traveling a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't foresee us getting anything new for a long while.
Very cool.
That makes sense. Awesome.
Well, now that we're getting kind of near the end, Adeline, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
No, absolutely.
And,
thank you for having
giving
me.
us some of your time. I never get to talk to you at the shows because we're both always so busy. So it was actually nice to get to sit down and I get to learn more about you, and it was awesome. So
it's super fun chit chatting.
Yeah, it's always a blast. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Adeline?
My email, adelinerobinsonart@gmail.com, is probably the easiest. Truth be told, I have my notifications off on everything, excluding email.
I love it.
And so, I know I'm not easy to get a hold of. Email is going to be the easiest way because I have my notifications set for email. It's easier for me to just be able to sit and go through stuff. I've got kind of an auto response on my social medias. So because that auto response kicks out, it will basically have a message as read. And so I won't see it as a new message because it kicked the auto response out. So sometimes I can miss them.
Yeah.
I try not to, but sometimes I do. So email would be the best way to contact me. But for my shop and for commission info and for pricing and whatnot, my website, AdelineRobinsonart.com, has pretty much all the info on there.
Very awesome. There you go, guys.
Fantastic.
Go check her out.
Guys, go check her out. Give her a follow on. Do you have a YouTube? Sorry, last thing. Do you have a YouTube that you do stuff still?
I do, but I'm so behind on posting on there.
No judgment here. Trust me.
But Chris did some amazing YouTube videos this year that we did post in there. So I just have not kept up with it, unfortunately.
I love it. Guys, go give her a follow everywhere. Adeline, if you'll stick around for a second, we're going to hit the outro, and we'll see you backstage in a moment. Chase, how people get a hold of you?
JKRMGR on Instagram, Canova, literally everywhere else.
Love
Patrick?
it. Aura, reptiles everywhere, guys. Please, I need validation. Go like my stuff. We love you all. Thank you all so much. Next week will not be a live episode. It'll be at the same time. We will be in chat talking with y'all, but it's going to be pre-recorded because it's Tanya from Chip Crazy. And guys, it's going to be a blast. It was a great episode.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to y'all getting a chance to see it and talk about it. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. So until next week, we love everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you soon.
See you guys.